Evolution is somewhat of an unwilling thing when we're living in it. Change is never something that we easily do when we're living within the bubble. Do not underestimate the power of a great coach who can help you through that. They will help solve problems in the right kind of way. Finding that commonality, finding that community is so critical to finding the right solution, even if you don't necessarily know the root target of the problem yet. Every single generation of the family business needs to embrace and accept the evolution that is inherently going to happen in it. Because if we don't accept and embrace that evolution that we need to make happen, then we're not going to exist for the next generation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fearless Family Business Podcast, where we want to help you to inject new life into your family business and find the love, the legacy, and the lifestyle that you desire. I'm your host, Adam Hill, and I am a fourth-generation family business leader and advisor. And today I want to talk to you about some of the benefits of outside advisors. It's a world that I'm just starting to get to on the outside side of it. We within our family business have hired a variety of outside advisors to help us and to consult with us and all of those things. But I'm just starting to dip my toes into the world of becoming an advisor for other family businesses based on what I've learned through my experiences. And I just want to share some of the things that we have learned in the process, in some of those ideas. The reason I want to talk about this is because a lot of times family businesses I've seen can fall into that trap of believing that outside advisors or consultants are expensive and maybe they don't do that much. Maybe they don't align with the XYZ way or the family business way that your particular business is operating. Or maybe it leaves a bad taste in the mouths of the owners or the operators because they crossed a line or something like that just doesn't operate the same way as that business. We tend to think as family businesses that we are terminally unique, that we're unique in such a way that we don't need the help of other outside entities in the same way that other businesses do. And while I understand where that logic comes from, I mean, there's a reason that whether you're a second generation family business or a fourth generation, fifth generation, sixth generation family business, there's a reason that you got there. There's some sort of legacy that you've imprinted based on the way that you do things and the way that you operate that has gotten you to this point. And that's not to be taken lightly. You should really look at what got you here and really dissect it, understand why you got to where you're at now and what worked in terms of getting you there. But also be okay with scrutinizing it, because if you want to get to the truth of where you're going, what got you here may not necessarily get you where you want to go. So while being able to scrutinize that, a lot of times it's helpful to have an outside perspective on a variety of things. And I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that may work and the reason it might help and how to go about knowing when to look for that outside help. This was something that when I started in my role in the family business, when I started 20 years ago, working for the family business. And I grew up in this family business, obviously spending my 45 years on the periphery of this company and then eventually working in it. I did see at times our company hiring some outside advisors to help out on certain things. Of course, we had legal experts, in terms of offering us legal advice or copyright advice or different trademarks, things of that nature. And we would utilize their services, but I've also there were some elements that we wouldn't bring in, like for management consulting or things of that nature. We may bring in a speaker from time to time, but but it was something that we didn't have a necessarily a process around it. But when I got into the role of CEO of the company, I felt this pressure that I needed to do a lot of what we were doing, or run the business, on my own with the help of the inside management team, of course. But and maybe that was faulty from my end, but that initial thought was that hey, this legacy, this fourth generation business, we've done things a certain way, and I don't want to influence it by bringing in outside opinions or thoughts or feelings, and somehow taint the waters of our company. I don't know what brought that into my mindset at the time, but it was faulty thinking. And it took a little while to actually break myself of that, and really what it took was involving myself in a mastermind group, which was it was a group of this happened to be a group called Gobundance, and it was a group of other entrepreneurs and men who were just trying to better themselves and work together in this mastermind community. And one of the things that consistently came up in that group was the use of a system called EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it perked my ears up, and I wanted to learn more about it. So I read the book Traction by Gino Wickman, and I learned more about that process, and ultimately thought, this may realize that their target market was, our company was smack dab right in the middle of what their ideal avatar would be. And I thought, I think that this could make our business better. So went about thinking about how to implement it. And my first thought, which again was that faulty thinking, was to implement it ourselves. Was, we could just take the tools and just implement it, and put all the pieces in place, and we'd be good enough. And it was just this fear of bringing somebody from the outside, having to pay the money or do something like that. But ultimately, we talked about it and we worked through it, and we ended up hiring an EOS implementer, and it was one of the best decisions that we've ever made, because we were able to elevate our results. We were able to get our company to the next level, and it was a great process. And so I think that's kind of one of the things. It's interesting to note that when my hesitancy to bring in an outside advisor, this fear that I had, this fear of whatever, it was just a fear of unknown or uncertainty or whatever. Actually, it shielded this idea that it could actually work for us, that there may be a benefit to it. And on the other side of that, on the other side of working through that fear and actually going through with it, and going through the vetting process and bringing in that outside advisor for EOS, our lives were within the leadership team became much simpler, and our results became better, and the business started getting better. We improved because of that decision to get that outside perspective. And there were a lot of things, and so that's just one example of how outside advisors can help. We had a specific target to what we wanted to get done, which was improve our business operating system, how we operated, how we communicated. We saw a gap there, and we wanted to correct it. And that's part of what the benefit of bringing outside advisors can do, is they offer, a lot of times, if you're very targeted about this approach, you can find somebody from the outside who can offer you an outside perspective, something that you might not be able to see from inside the box. I mentioned earlier that family businesses, it's easy to operate in a bubble, in the bubble of the family, or how unique you are, and all of this stuff. The things that make you great, the core values you have, the things that make you wonderful can also become sacred cows that you just can't see from within. And having that outside perspective to come in and look and ask questions really can give you a new perspective as well, and open up your mind, get your head out of the box to see what the landscape really is and how you can proceed in the right way. And that's an important thing to look for in an outside advisor, I believe, for whatever purpose you might want to get them for. is somebody that not doesn't show you how to do something, which, there may be parts of it that they have a framework or they may show you how to do something, but what they're ultimately doing is they're guiding you to make the best decisions for yourself, to make the best decisions for the greater good of the company, to help you evolve. Evolution is somewhat of an unwilling thing when we're living in it. Change is never something that we easily do when we're living within the bubble. Sure, when people don't have a lot of skin in the game, it's easy to point out the changes that we need to make in a business. But when you're working in it, when the stakes are high, when it's really difficult, that when it's hard to make those changes that you need. You do get attached and you're in the bubble. So getting that outside perspective is really helpful, especially when that perspective is a very specific and unique experience. And that brings me to my next point about what you want to look for in an outside advisor. You might be thinking to yourself, our family business is struggling. We're having a hard time. It's difficult. It feels like we're falling apart and I'm juggling too much or what have you. And I just need a consultant to come in and help me. Well, the problem with that notion is that it's just such a broad feeling of we need to have somebody come in from the outside and help us. And that's, I think, where a lot of businesses get stuck is they just feel like they need somebody to help them. Come here, help us do something. Well, what do you need? We don't know. Fix it. The problem, of course, with that thinking is that it's not specific. It's not targeted enough. You need to do the work from within to really identify at least what you feel like isn't working from within. And then find that person that can really target that. If it's kind of like when you look at your house. If your house is, in bad shape, and you can hire a general contractor and they might help you point out some of the things you need to fix. But really, when you look at it, you can probably look at the company. You can look at the house and say, "Well, I can't open the door because the lock is jammed or whatever." Well, that means that you're going to need a locksmith. That specific person will help you open that door. Or if the windows are rusted out and then they're not closing all the way, well, now I need a window person. It's the same thing for your business. If you feel like your financial well-being is questionable, or you don't feel like you can trust the financial reports or the financial information that you're getting, maybe a fractional CFO or some kind of financial advisor can come in and help to shed some light on where you need help and what needs fixing, and guide you through that process of what you might need. If it is your business system, if you're struggling to communicate with the other leaders, or if you don't feel like you have a full grasp on the business and that the decisions you're making just aren't being followed through on, well, maybe a system like EOS or bringing in an EOS implementer is something you want to look at. Those are some of the ideas on where you can go if it's operations. But the key is to look for inside first. What is broken? Prioritize those things that might need help, that might need fixing, and then one by one go after them. Look when you're prioritizing them. Look at the things that will move the needle the most. If it's getting visibility into your financial statements or the actual effect of what's happening in your finances, maybe the fractional CFO is the starting place. If it is just your general business systems, maybe it's EOS is the starting place. Or if it's operations, maybe it's an outside operations firm. If it's legal, maybe it's a lawyer. But those are the things. You don't necessarily have to hire somebody to come within to do those jobs to start. Oftentimes, it's better to look to the outside, to have somebody who's going to bring that new perspective from the outside perspective, and then make the decision later if you need to bring in somebody full time. Another thing that that bringing in an outside advisor can do for you is a lot of times it softens some of the difficult conversations that you need to have. And this is especially true when it comes to people like facilitators. Within a family business, we have that added element of the family dynamic. We have emotion. And it's very natural to have, emotion. We take things personally. we have that familial relationship where personalities do get involved. That's, of course, true of every business, but in family businesses, it's especially true because we have a lot of times we'll go to Thanksgiving dinner and we'll see those people at dinner that we might have to have a difficult conversation with. How do you fire a family member who's not performing? How do you talk to a parent who is set in their ways and we need to make changes in the business? How do you build the authority for yourself as a next gen leader and take the authority that you're taking on without being micromanaged? A lot of times outside facilitation can help soften those conversations. And that's one thing that we found within our leadership is when you have things like a family council or an ownership council or a business board of directors, if things are starting to get a little too heated and you're not getting traction on the actual issues themselves, bringing in a great facilitator that can help talk through that and work through that is a great way to get to the heart of the issue and take the emotions out of it, or at least put them on the shelf and work it through. And that's one of the benefits of doing that. And honestly, one of the greatest benefits that I've had as a leader of a business was just being able to take the entire weight of the decision off of me and put it onto a system or a decision that was made based on an outside perspective. That's always very helpful, because if you are like me or if you are running a business, you know what the weight of those decisions are. You know how heavy it can feel when you're impacting your entire family or employees or people within the organization. It's a lot of weight. And the right kinds of systems, the right kinds of outside advisors can help a lot with that. And then another thing that they do on top of that, another thing that outside advisors can do, and this is really relevant too to being within the bubble of the family business, is those folks will lead us to think differently. They'll help us to solve problems where we might be at an impasse, or even if you can't solve them, it puts some pressure in the right place and it makes the root of the problem very obvious. So there may be problems within an organization, especially a family business, that you cannot solve, just by the nature of the culture or the nature of the ownership dynamic or however that may work. But if you can bring that in there and you can start to think differently and you could start to shed some light on where the real problem lies, even if you can't fix the problem, it'll shine the light on that problem and it will become apparent. And it will become apparent to everyone. And the more pressure that is put on that problem, the more likely it is to be addressed over time, when the time is right and as the time is right. The timing may not be now, but it may be in the future to actually start to solve that problem. That's where we had a lot of benefit with EOS in terms of shedding light on the problems that we didn't think we could solve, but over time we were able to dig deeper and get deeper and find the root of that. So leading us to think differently is a really important concept. And in particular, an outside advisor that can help us to think differently, usually in a lot of cases, is a coach. And I would encourage anybody who's a new next-gen leader to find a really, really great business coach. Not necessarily, you may know everything that there is to know about running a business, about accounting, about finance, all of the pieces. You might be an A+ Harvard MBA student that is ready to roll on that front. But I will tell you, having an outside perspective, an outside coach who can mentor you or talk through or work through some of those complex problems and help you to think a little bit differently outside of the bubble is going to help you tremendously. Do not underestimate the power of a great coach who can help you through that. They will help solve problems in the right kind of way. And so those are really some of the great benefits of outside advisors that can help you. Not only do they have specific and targeted guidance that they can give you, they can help you get to the right result that you want to get to. They can give you an outside perspective on something that you might be stuck on. They can facilitate the hard conversations that are just so difficult to have, help remove the emotion and bring you to a very solid result. And they can help you to think differently about the way that you're doing things so that you can come to a better decision. And that decision, the weight of that decision might be lifted from you quite a bit. So the next question really is, how do you find these folks? How do you find the outside advisors? How do you know where and when to look for them? Well, a lot of times this takes I think the first step really is taking the self-reflection. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you really want to know first where the problem lies, or at least the periphery of what the problem is and what it represents. If you can find that surface level direction of a problem, that's the ideal starting point, because it might be, again, we just don't have a good grasp on our finances. I don't understand it. We don't understand the financial reports, or we don't have real trust in the numbers we're getting. Or it might be that you're just feeling like your decisions aren't being followed through on. That's the starting point of that. And then the next step is to really look for the people that are specific to those kinds of problems. And you can usually find a lot of resources on this. If you're a part of any kind of business group or mastermind, it may be a family business council, or it may be a local entrepreneurs organization, or it might be YPO or Gobundance. Gobundance is the tribe I'm part of. There's a lot of people already using these resources that can refer it, that have specific experiences with these things that you might want to find. They might even already have the result that you have. Simply reach out and ask, who has experience with this and what have you done? Finding that commonality, finding that community is so critical to finding the right solution, even if you don't necessarily know the root target of the problem yet. And a lot of times we don't. A lot of times we just see the result that we don't want, and we can't troubleshoot the problem. That's where we need help. And so if we take that to our cohorts or to our business groups, to those kinds of things, they can often offer perspective on how they've solved it in the past, or how they've worked through it, or lead us to the people, the outside advisors that can help us. So the moral of this story, ladies and gentlemen, is to not thumb your nose or shirk away the outside advisors, or the idea that outside help is going to taint your family business, or somehow pollute the family business, or be too expensive, or anything like that. Like anything else, it is an investment in your improvement. It is an evolution. And I'm going to tell you that each generation, every single generation of the family business, needs to embrace and accept the evolution that is inherently going to happen in it. Because if we don't accept and embrace that evolution that we need to make happen, then we're not going to exist for the next generation. So embrace it, and do so by looking at the outside perspectives on how you can improve. Make the decision and go forth with courage. Thanks for joining me today. Hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Fearless Family Business Show. If you're enjoying this show, please thumbs up this episode and subscribe wherever that subscribe button is. And you'll get more family business education and insights in your inbox. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, a colleague, a spouse, your mom, your dad, a second cousin, whomever you think might benefit from hearing this show. And if you're in a family business and you've got a great story to share, contact me, because I would love to see if you'd be a great fit for this show. I'd love to interview you. Or if you're struggling in your family business to find your unique identity or voice, or you need an injection of new life into your family business, I'd also love to hear from you. I'd love to learn more about you, and I'd love to see if I can help. Simply email me at adam@fearlessfamilybusiness.com, and we'll get you connected to the right place. Together, we can elevate the love, the legacy, and the lifestyle we all experience in our family businesses. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.